Hi everyone, my name is Michelle and I'm an advisor on the SRA Hub. Today's webinar is great for both high school students and college students. It's about how to prepare for your interviews. So what I'm going to do is share my screen and then we can get started. All right, so I assume that if you guys are watching this webinar that you guys probably have an interview coming up, so congrats, that's already, a big achievement. And today we're going to go through some tips to kind of get you guys ready for it. So we're going to talk about what to do before your interview, what to do during your interview, and also what to do after. We'll also go over like 2 or 3 most common interview questions and how you guys can approach them. So before the interview, you guys obviously want to research the company or the organization, or if you're working in a school or whatever it is, wherever you plan to work, make sure to research their mission, values, and any recent news. So you can Google them and see they pop up. Or if someone recently wrote an article about them, you want to do that before the interview. You also want to look through their website. So there's a lot of information, and nowadays employers expect you to do this step and for you guys to be really familiar with their goals and what they're about, so that they can make sure that you know that you're a good fit for the company. Practice answering questions online. You guys can record yourself, kind of like what I'm doing with this webinar. Record yourself. It might be a little awkward at first, but it's really great practice because you actually get to see what you're like. Not only, see how you answer the questions, but your body language. So are you using your hands too much? Are you like moving around too much? How's the volume of your voice? Are you, talking like this where no one will find it interesting? So record yourself. A little weird, but that's a really great tip. Make sure to print 2 copies of your resume and your cover letter. Most of the time they might have reviewed it, but it's always, good to have a couple copies handy in case some people forgot to print it out, or maybe some people just didn't get to review it. So have those handy before. You also want to pick the right clothes. So ideally you want to, as you're researching the company, you kind of get a sense of if they're like a tech company or they're more corporate. You kind of know what, most employees dress like. So you want to dress maybe a little bit nicer than what most people do on a daily basis, just because, you're the one interviewing and you want to make an impression. But let's say it's like a tech company where they're really casual and they just wear a t-shirt and jeans. Like, you don't necessarily need to or want to show up in a suit. If you guys aren't really sure like what you should wear, you can always reach out to us or your SRA advisor and we'll help you guys out. You want to map out exactly how to get there, especially if you're taking public transportation, or even if you're driving. You want to make sure you find the right parking lot and just give yourself some buffer time for walking or traffic and all that. What I like to do is I like to use Google Map and see where the building is and what it looks like from the outside. So you guys know how on Google Maps they have that option. So I always do that. So at least know what the building looks like, so it's easier to find the day of, and you're not just kind of scrambling, crossing the street here or there and trying to look for it. Arrive 10 minutes before your scheduled interview, but don't arrive too early. So I would say about 10 minutes is good. More than that, I would just probably sit in my car or hang out in the building for a little bit or walk around the block before the interview. So you're at the interview. This is what you want to do. You want to introduce yourself, right? You say, hi, my name is Michelle. Shake their hands, smile, make eye contact. What I do is, if I'm sitting in the room waiting for my interview to start and people come in, what I do is I get up from my seat and introduce myself and shake my hand instead of just staying in my seat. I think that's a nice gesture. When you're talking to them during the interview, you want to sit up straight, right? And make eye contact with everyone in the room. So if you're interviewing with 2 or 3 people, or maybe even 9 or 10 people, if it's a big panel, you want to address everyone. So if you're answering the question, you'll kind of like look around the room, pause for a couple of seconds as you're answering a question, instead of just making eye contact with the person who asked a question. You want to look engaged and happy to be there, so smile. When someone's talking to you, you want to nod, slowly, not like ferociously, but just nod to show that you're listening and you're understanding. And at the end, I think you guys already know this, but you want to shake their hands again and make good eye contact when you're doing it. I would practice my handshake to make sure it's not, too like limp of a handshake, but a strong, confident handshake. So practice with your friends beforehand. So after the interview, you always, no matter how it went, good, bad, so, you always want to send a thank you note within 24 hours to each person that interviewed you. So not just the recruiter, but each person. So ideally, you would like to maybe customize it a little bit. But yeah, to each person, or if you just want to write a general email, you could just include everyone's email address in that. So sometimes that requires doing some research on LinkedIn, or you can always, if it's a big company and you're working with a recruiter, you can ask them for the names and emails of the people that you interviewed with so that you can make sure it gets to the right people. And lucky for you guys, we have a template on the Hub. So we have a lot of different templates on the Hub, but one of them is a job interview follow-up. So it's right here on the screen. So all you have to do is really copy and paste, and then where it's red, just replace it with your own information, right? So we try to make it as easy as possible. And if you guys ever want us to review your email, we'll be happy to do that. So in your follow-up email, you want to show your excitement. You can also say things that you wish you had said in the interview but forgot to mention. Maybe you're like, oh man, after the interview, you wish you answered the question differently. And like, oof, I can't believe I forgot to tell them about this one event that I planned that was really successful. You can use the follow-up email to do that. You can also use it to clarify or explain anything that you wish you went into more detailed about. So very important thank you emails. So these are some of the most common questions that you might encounter during an interview. So the first one will likely be, tell me about yourself. General rule is, you don't want to make it too long, but you wanted to make it informative. So because they most likely probably reviewed your resume and cover letter before the interview, you want to go beyond it. So you want to provide extra information about your interest in the position, your strengths, maybe your, passions and goals and why you're a good fit. You want to avoid any random personal information like, oh yeah, I have a dog, his name is Oscar or whatever. It doesn't really have anything to do with the job. Even if they might be dog people, maybe that can, happen later at the end of the interview when you guys are making small talk or something, but not to answer this question. So what you can say is like your name, if you're in college, what year you're in, which college you're attending, your major, any extracurricular events that are relevant. So let's say you're interviewing for a biotech internship, and you're a research assistant on campus. That's something you can include about it, about yourself or previous internship roles or jobs. That's the place to say it. So the key is try to, keep it short and sweet, but informative, like I said. So when you guys are practicing the answer to this question, just try to keep it to about 1 minute. So this is where it's really helpful to record yourself so you can, make sure the pace is okay and the content of what you're saying is okay. I sometimes struggle with this, but I sometimes end, my answers with, yeah, so yeah. I think you guys know what I mean. You're like explaining, yeah, I love, biology because of X, Y, Z. So yeah, you guys know what I mean. So try to avoid that, and the best way to do it is just to practice, practice, practice. Another common question is, why are you a good fit? So the key is to take the job description, right? You guys all know what that is. So take what it is and all the research that you've done to figure out what's important for this role. Because basically what you want to do is look at the job description, the responsibilities that you will have the qualifications that you have, and then you're going to look at your own resume or think back to your own previous experience and see how you can match them. So you could start off by saying, I know you guys are looking for someone who has a lot of experience in event planning. So start off with that. And then it's important to give specific details and examples. So let's say one of the things that you have to be able to do is cooperate with others. So don't say, oh yeah, I'm a good fit because I'm able to cooperate with others. You want to give them specific examples. So for example, with the event planning, I can say, yeah, I had to collaborate with everyone in my club on campus. We were putting a big event, a charity event, and it required me to work with outside vendors, but also with students as well as other officers in the club. And we had weekly meetings, had to delegate different tasks. We use a calendar that I put together for everyone so everyone could coordinate, yada, yada. So just be specific. And when you talk about why you're a good fit, obviously you don't want to mention your weaknesses unless they ask, which is going to be the next question that we'll go over. But don't talk about your weaknesses unless they ask. I'm going to focus on why you're a good fit, because really that's what interviews are, right? If you got an interview, most likely they think like, okay, you have the experience and the, background that they need, but are they a good fit for this company? So I hope that makes sense. Another common question is, tell me your weakness or greatest challenge. So basically the point of this is for them, they want to know if you can, be honest and fairly assess yourself, receive and incorporate feedback, as well as take steps to improve. So a lot of times students know, like maybe you can twist your weakness so it's really a strength. And a lot of students say, my greatest weakness or challenge is that I'm a perfectionist. And that's not really the best example because it really doesn't tell the employer anything. So what I would do is choose something that's not critical to the role. So, we see some examples on the screen, like if it's a sales job, you don't want to say my greatest challenge is that I'm really shy and I don't really like to talk to people. I like to keep to myself, right? That shows them that you're not a good fit. Or let's say, as an SRA advisor, I have to do a lot of public speaking. In my interview, I wouldn't say my greatest weakness is public speaking. Whether or not that is true, that immediately tells them that you're not a good fit. And they'll be like, well, they themselves said that they're not a good fit for the job. So be honest, pick something, but also pick something that's not crucial to the role. And I would say one of the most important parts in successfully answering this question is to show how you're improving, how you're working on it. So in my example, let's say my weakness is public speaking. But one way I'm working on it is taking classes, going to Toastmasters meetings so I can practice my public speaking. So that's very different than just saying, yeah, I'm bad at public speaking. So you want to show them that you're improving, that you're proactive, and that you've seen progress. So you can say, yeah, since I started my public speaking class, I've gotten really great feedback from my professor and blah, 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 blah. And also you run into a lot of behavioral questions. So behavioral questions are, the ones where they say, tell me about a time when you overcame a challenge. Tell me about a time when you didn't get along with your teammate. What did you do to still make sure the project was complete? So those are called behavior questions. And how you respond is, we call it the STAR method. Or right here it says model, but you can use the STAR method. So STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result. You want to be specific. Well, the STAR method will help you be specific. So as you're preparing for your interviews, try to predict what kind of behavioral questions they'll ask you so that you can use the STAR method and write down what the situation was, what the task was, what actions you were involved in, so maybe your responsibilities, and the results. So what came out of it? What difference did you make? So an example would be, tell me about a time when you had to put on an event for 100 people, or tell me about a time where you put on a career event for 100 people. So I could just say, yeah, last February I put on a career event at SRA and it was great. Now that doesn't really tell the employers very much about you. So alternatively, you want to use the STAR method. So I can say, yeah, last February I successfully planned and implemented a career development event that focused on resumes. So that was a situation, and then you go into the task. So what I was responsible for was recruiting 100 volunteers so that each of the 100 students that participated got one-on-one help on their resume. You could further elaborate on the action. So I try to find volunteers by sending out emails, reaching out to friends, connecting with people in my network, and then you talk about the results, and it was great. It was really successful. We actually were able to recruit 200 volunteers. We had a wait list. We also had a training for the volunteers so that they would know how to work with college-age students, how to really help them expand or improve their bullet points. So that says a lot more than, yeah, I planned this career event. So the key is to be specific. And that's the presentation that I have for you guys. I'm going to see if you guys have any questions. In the meantime, as you guys are asking questions, I'll let you guys take the post poll that should pop up. And then I'll also go over the answers at the end. So if you have any question, just type it into the chat box. Okay, looks like everyone's pretty much putting in the same answers. All right, give you guys 30 more seconds. All right. One more person. All right, thanks guys. So, so you guys know the answer. Plan to wear clothes that are a little bit nicer than what most employees at the company typically wear. And you guys all know this. Number 2, you always want to send a thank you email after. So great job. We did get one question. So someone asked, sometimes it's hard for me, or it takes me a while to come up with answers, and there's that awkward silence. So I've definitely been there. And my recommendation is to say, oh, yeah, that's a really great question. Let me think about that a minute, or can I have a minute to think about that? And it's totally okay to ask for that extra time. Don't feel like you always have to give an answer right off the bat. So, if you're someone who needs a little more time to think about something, and you're like, oof, I didn't really expect that question, I need like a few seconds to really think about it, you can say, yeah, that's a really great question. Let me, can I have like a second to think about it? And most oftentimes they'll say yes, and it doesn't always reflect badly on you. You don't want to use it too much, but once or twice is okay. And yes, practicing ahead of time helps. So someone else gave that awesome tip to you or to everyone in this webinar. Always practice. And try to practice with someone, and also record yourself. Really awkward, but I can't recommend it enough. All right, guys, I think that's all the questions we have. Thank you guys for joining our webinar today. If you have any questions, want us to look over anything, we also do mock interviews, so let us know if we can help you with that. Reach out to us on the SRA Hub. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.